This video is being made for entertainment purposes only. If you decide to invest in the stock market, please consult an investment advisor. In one of my past videos, we talked about the NASDAQ. I mentioned that we didn't have a chart for the New York Stock Exchange. It turns out we do. I did find one, and I've been studying this for the last couple of days. It does seem to be accurate. That's what we're going to be going over today. Off to the side here, we're looking at the astrological chart of the New York Stock Exchange. It began back in May of 1792. As I've talked about in other charts involving the stock market, like the NASDAQ, the planet Vader is where we want to start. And Vader is up here in the 7th house in the sign of Pisces. What's interesting is Vader is trining Neptune. And that's very powerful because Vader is in the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. Also, Vader is in the 7th house, and the 7th house is ruled by Compania. I've talked about this planet in other videos. What's interesting is Jupiter and the moon are both squaring Compania. This is a very good aspect because Jupiter is expansion, opportunity. The door's open for you. Lots of good luck. The moon is in the 9th house, the house of Jupiter. So both of them are kind of saying the same thing, and the square is making that even better. And the square is showing us that this is a very positive aspect. This leads to success of whatever it is we're talking about. Also, Compania gets this 60-degree aspect, the sextile from both Mars and Mercury. So Compania is in a very powerful, good place in this chart. Overall, the New York Stock Exchange came into existence and was born at a very powerful time, and that's what's being said here. There's very few negative aspects in this chart. Next, off to the side here, you'll see the solar return for the New York Stock Exchange, which began back in May of 2023. We're almost about to renew, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. You can see in this chart that the New York Stock Exchange solar cycle began back in 2023 on May 18th. You can see as it moved forward, it went sideways and then it went up. So now we're going to look at the solar return chart for this cycle, and I'll explain how this happened. So here we have the New York Stock Exchange solar return chart. The first thing we're going to look at is Vader up in the 9th house. This is really interesting because the 9th house is the home of Jupiter, expansion, opportunity, good luck. And as it would turn out, Jupiter is sextiling Vader. This is very powerful, very strong, very positive. This is that upward movement that we saw in the chart or that I just showed you. Also, Vader is making a 30-degree aspect to Pluto in the 8th house in Aquarius. This is difficult. So that a lot of that sideways movement was because of this. Also, Vader is in the sign of Pisces. So we want to look at Neptune. And in this chart, Neptune is sextiling the sun in Taurus in the 12th house. This is very positive. This is very good. Also, Neptune is trining Mars in the 2nd house. What's important here is the trine, positive, flowing, easy. Mars is in the 2nd house, the house of materialism. This is just people's desire to make money and willingness to invest in the stock market. Again, this is a big part of why it went up as far as it did in the chart I just showed. On the negative side, Neptune is opposing Ceres. The reason we saw the New York Stock Exchange move sideways for so many months in the chart earlier is because Jupiter in the 11th house is being squared by Pluto in Aquarius. And this is just slowing things down. It's kind of a stop and go aspect. So we've talked about the upward movement and the downward movement of the New York Stock Exchange seen in this chart. To see when that's going to happen, we would need to look at the lunar returns. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're just going to look at the current one. So what you're seeing here is the current lunar return for the New York Stock Exchange. It actually just ended. This cycle just ended. It actually began back on April 8th. But what we want to do is we want to look at this chart again. So now we're going to take a look at this chart of the New York Stock Exchange. You can see just in the last month, it moved down more than it went up. This cycle just ended, by the way. So what you can see over here on the side is where it ended. It began up here just inside April. So now let's take a look at this current lunar return cycle. And we're expecting to see more negative than positive. So we're going to start with Vader, which we always do. So as you can see, Vader is making a 30-degree aspect to Pluto down here on the 6th house cusp. And this is telling us lots of criticism and doubt in investing during this cycle. Also, Vader is making a semi-square to Ceres. It's the same thing because Ceres rules this 6th house. But it's doubt, it's criticism. Vader is also in the 7th house. This is ruled by Compania. And what's interesting is the sun and moon are in Aries in the 9th house, squaring Compania. Normally, this would be a very good aspect. The problem is Ceres got involved here by opposing Compania. The reason Ceres spoiled everything is because it's in Capricorn, and it just sort of diffused the fire. Now we want to look at Vader being in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is getting hit really hard. The problem here is Neptune is in the 8th house, and it's getting hit by this 15-degree aspect from Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn making a conjunction, afflicting, creating a difficult aspect to any planet is really tough. The fact that Neptune is in the 8th house, this is why the New York Stock Exchange went down as much as it did in the current cycle. Anyhow, that's our video for today. I will be making a video on the next New York Stock Exchange lunar cycle here in a couple days before it starts. Anyhow, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.